1. Penicillin, the dirty dish. We're taught that progress is a ladder, each rung a deliberate, brilliant step. Science, innovation, the march of human ingenuity, it's all presented as a grand, calculated plan. Here is what actually happened. Most of the modern world was built by people who were trying to do something else entirely, and failed spectacularly. We aren't living in the future, we planned. We're living in the leftovers of successful mistakes. This is the story of the 5 massive breakthroughs that survived because someone was smart enough to notice an accident. Our first accidental genius, Alexander Fleming, a Scottish bacteriologist working in London, 1928. Not exactly known for his tidiness, Fleming was trying to find a cure for bacterial infections, like many scientists of his era. The process was meticulous. Grow bacteria, test compounds, hope for a miracle. Then he decided to go on vacation. Crucial step. He left a stack of his Petri dishes piled in a sink. When he returned from holiday, he found them, and true to form, they were a mess. But amidst the contamination, something odd. One dish, left open, had developed a common mold, a fluffy, greenish-blue patch. Around this mold, a clear ring. No bacteria grew there. The mold was killing his staphylococcus. Most people would see a ruined experiment, curse their absent-mindedness, and toss the dish. Fleming, however, had that rare scientific curiosity that makes him say, that's interesting. He identified the mold as Penicillium nodita. He named the active substance penicillin. He published his findings, but here's the kicker. He couldn't isolate or mass-produce it. It was a fascinating lab curiosity, a biological oddity, a scientific footnote. It took another decade and the desperation of World War II for Oxford scientists Howard Florey and Ernst Chain to refine Fleming's discovery. They turned that forgotten dirty dish into a life-saving drug that would revolutionize medicine, saving millions of lives during and after the war. Fleming didn't set out to save humanity. He just forgot to do the dishes, and the world is infinitely better for his poor housekeeping skills. 2. The Slinky, the gravity fail. From life-saving medicine to a walking spring. Our next accidental hero is Richard James, a naval mechanical engineer. 1943, James was working at the Cramp shipyard in Philadelphia, trying to develop springs that could stabilize sensitive instruments aboard ships. Warships, as you can imagine, tend to pitch and roll. These instruments needed to stay level. One day, while experimenting with torsion springs, a prototype spring assembly fell off a shelf. Instead of simply clattering to the floor, it performed a curious, graceful dance. It walked down the stack of books, then onto the table, then across the floor. James wasn't trying to invent a toy. He was trying to prevent naval equipment from breaking. But his accidental fall revealed a completely unexpected property of the spring. He saw a mistake. His wife, Betty James, saw the gold mine. She coined the name Slinky after seeing how it moved and recognized its potential as a toy. She convinced him to start a company. The first 400 Slinkies sold out in minutes at Gimbel's department store in 1945. Today, over 300 million Slinkies have been sold worldwide. A failed attempt at military stabilization became one of the most iconic and sometimes frustrating toys in history. So, next time your kids are inexplicably entertained by a metal coil tumbling down the stairs, remember, that's a piece of failed wartime engineering. 3. Teflon, the missing gas. Our next tale of accidental brilliance comes from DuPont in 1938. The hero, Roy J. Plunkett, a chemist, trying to create a new, non-toxic refrigerant gas for refrigerators. His goal was ambitious: synthesize tetrafluoroethylene, or TFE, and then react it to produce a new chlorofluorocarbon refrigerant. He stored the TFE gas in pressurized cylinders, cooling them to keep the gas liquid. One morning, Plunkett and his assistant opened the valve on a cylinder of TFE. Nothing came out. The weight of the cylinder indicated it was still full, but the gas had vanished. Curious, and perhaps a little annoyed, Plunkett decided to saw the cylinder open. A dangerous move, given the volatile gas. Inside, instead of gas, they found a slippery white powder. The TFE gas had polymerized, creating polytetraflonally, or PTFE, a mistake, an absolute failure. But what they had found was remarkable. This new substance was incredibly inert, resistant to heat, and had an exceptionally low coefficient of friction. In short, it was incredibly slippery, and almost nothing would stick to it. For years, it was a niche material, used in the Manhattan Project to seal valves and gaskets handling corrosive uranium hexafluoride for enriching uranium. Critical, but not exactly a household name. It wasn't until the 1950s that a French engineer, Marc Grégoire, used it to coat his fishing gear. His wife suggested he try it on their cooking pans. And thus, Teflon nonstick cookware was born. The most non-reactive slippery substance on Earth was discovered because a gas tank seemed broken. Without this mistake, we'd still be scrubbing eggs off pans. And the history of nuclear weapons might have been quite different. For Post-it notes, the weak glue from the bomb to the office. Our next accidental invention is a ubiquitous piece of stationery. The hero Spencer Silver, a scientist at 3M, 1968. Silver's mission was to develop a super strong adhesive, something robust for the aerospace industry. Instead, he created precisely the opposite, an adhesive that was incredibly weak. It stuck to surfaces, but could be peeled off easily and reused multiple times without leaving residue. It was, in his words, a solution looking for a problem. For 5 years, this low-tack adhesive sat on the shelf at 3M, a fascinating but seemingly useless invention. Enter Art Fry, another 3M scientist. Fry sang in his church choir and used small pieces of paper to mark the hymns in his hymnal. The problem? They kept falling out. He remembered Silver's weak adhesive. What if he coated the back of his paper bookmarks with it? It worked perfectly. The bookmarks stayed put, but could be removed without damaging the pages. Fry realized the potential, a repositionable note. He developed the idea within 3M, and after some internal resistance, who needs sticky notes? The Post-it note was launched in 1980. Today, Post-it notes are a multi-billion-dollar product. We built an empire on the back of a glue that refused to actually stick things together. It just goes to show, sometimes the greatest success comes from the most spectacular failure to achieve your original goal. 5. The pacemaker. The wrong resistor, our final accidental masterpiece, is perhaps the most profound. The implantable cardiac pacemaker. The hero, Wilson Greatbatch, an American electrical engineer, 1956. Greatbatch was working on building a device to record heart sounds. He was assembling a circuit and reached into a box for a standard 10,000 ohm resistor. By mistake, he pulled out a 1 megohm, 1 million ohm resistor. He installed the wrong resistor into his circuit. When he switched it on, instead of recording, the circuit produced a rhythmic electrical pulse. One pulse every 1.8 milliseconds. It sounded exactly like a heartbeat. In that moment, Greatbatch realized the potential. If this device could generate a rhythmic pulse, it could regulate a failing heart. At the time, heart block was treated with large external machines, not portable solutions. It took a few years to refine, collaborating with surgeons and experimenting with dogs. But Greatbatch's accidental resistor swap led directly to the world's first implantable pacemaker, successfully used in a human patient in 1960. A simple mispick from a parts bin resulted in a device that has kept millions of hearts beating, extending and improving countless lives. Conclusion: the Darwinism of luck. So, what have we learned? History isn't solely written by the smartest person in the room, meticulously executing a flawless plan. It's also written by the curious, the observant, the ones who notice when the wrong thing happens, from dirty dishes to failed glue, from dropped springs to broken gas tanks and mistaken resistors. Our civilization is essentially a series of happy accidents we've retroactively claimed were part of the plan. It's the Darwinism of luck, the fortunate mistake that survives because someone recognized its true potential. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What amazing, life-changing, or utterly ridiculous mistake did you make today that might just be the next big thing? What's the best mistake you've ever made? Let me know below. Remember, sometimes the greatest genius is simply being in the right place at the wrong time with the right level of curiosity.